All right, we are live on another edition of the Edlow Podcast. Well, live for me, but recorded already for you when this drops. Welcome, subscribe, subscribe, subscribe. I shout out to Singapore. I don't know why Singapore is suddenly downloading my stuff, but hello. Thanks for coming, Singapore. Stick around. Anyhow, I'm here. I say this every time. I'm always excited for my next guest, and this one is one that's really near and dear to my heart. A massive effect on my childhood. I have Mark Holton. Mark, thanks for coming on the podcast.
Thank you for your invite. Glad to be
Yeah,
here.
yeah. So, Mark, for those, you really rose to stardom. I think Pee Wee's Big Adventure was, like, the one that really got you going, wasn't it? Wasn't that kinda your the role that put you on the map?
Um, it that movie, it did, and then it kind of waned, but it has continued to grow every time people have babies, you know? "Oh, you know what? You need you kids need to see Pee-wee's Big Adventure." So
Yeah.
I'm up to, like, at least 4 generations of, little guys dressed like Pee Wee Herman coming by my tables at conventions. And
Yeah.
it just continues to blow my mind, the stuff that comes across my tables from other countries that I never knew existed. Um, people's, personal, uh, well, there was a couple of things that really, blew my mind, things that you don't think about until it hits you in the face. A couple of people that said during COVID, I watched that movie every day. And
Wow.
if it hadn't been for that movie, I probably would have lost my mind because every day I knew I could escape into that movie.
Hmm.
So, when somebody hits you with that, it's like, wow, um, I think you need a hug.
You're like, "You need a hug, but COVID," you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, um, did you know when you were filming Pee Wee Big Adventure, did you have any idea that it would become a cult classic like that?
Well, I had some idea. The crew, they brought in Victor Kemper
Hmm.
for the cinematographer, and I thought, well, that's pretty big guns.
Mhm.
The fact that the ex head of Warner Brothers was now the executive producer, that was a big tip off. But everything else was kind of strange.
Mm.
The only time I had seen Paul was on Letterman on a
Mhm.
13-inch television in a bachelor efficiency, you
Uh-huh.
know, and he was doing his shtick with Letterman, and that's all I knew about Pee Wee Herman. I didn't attend the Groundlings. We didn't have
Mhm.
the internet back then, so I couldn't look him up and see,
Mm.
what a big following he had. I couldn't check in on the other groundlings.
Mhm.
And as far as the director went, there was no way for me to get a copy or to watch. The only thing he had in the can at the time, which was Frankenweenie. And if you watch Frankenweenie today, you will see a little bit of that movie. You will see that director in everything that he's done since then.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, not really. I really didn't, and it didn't really hit me that it had one hell of a chance until they started carpet bombing with the radio and TV ads.
Mm.
Um, so I wouldn't hear anything, and then all of a sudden I'd hear something from Paul, and I'd hmm well that sounds pretty good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it was just weird. I guess when it really sunk in was when MTV, in its infancy, did its first live broadcast of a film premiere at Grauman's Chinese Theater, Man's Chinese Theater, whatever you want to call it,
Mhm. Mhm.
and then did the after party. It was surreal. let's just say that, um, to sit in an audience and watch a movie that you're in and hear people's reaction to it. And there are people in the audience that you know who they are, and you're
Mhm.
just about to fanboy out all over the place, right?
Yeah.
And then, so that was a mind blower. And then the after party, I kind of walked in the back, trying not to draw any attention. And they had a smaller bar set up back there, away from the interviews and everything that MTV had going. And I got a drink, and I found myself standing between Alice Cooper and Rodney Dangerfield.
Oh, wow.
And I'm going, "This is crazy. What the hell's going on here?" This is too much. Um, Alice Cooper, the first 8-track I ever bought was a Billion Dollar Babies. So
Nice.
I'm talking to Alice Cooper, I Love the Dead, School's Out on one side, and then I Don't Get No Respect on the other side.
Oh,
And Ronnie
man.
Dangerfield goes, how does a kid from Oklahoma, show up and do this movie?
Yeah.
I don't know, sir.
Well,
Don't know.
that's a great question is how did you, like, where did you always wanna be an actor? Was that something you wanted to do, or
About the time, about my junior year in high school, it hit me that this feels more than I want to. This feels like a calling.
Hmm.
Um, and that year, I had some success at the state level, and then I found myself at nationals. Back then, the National Rifle Association, National Forensic League,
Hmm.
um, would host semifinals and nationals in dramatic interpretation and poetry, but it
Hmm.
was heavily weighted for interpretive. Uh, we called it intern. Uh, a lot of debating, things
Hmm.
along that line.
Mhm.
So I found myself, going to that, and that was a really crazy experience and an eye opener. Um, I got to the semifinals, and while um, while the debaters, uh, had people like you from
Mhm.
law firms or whatever, and judges
Yeah. Right.
come in to referee, not to referee, but to judge the debate. I got
Mhm.
two nuns and a priest, and I was doing something old play, uh, a cutting from that. Death Takes a Holiday,
Hmm.
and their only critique was your material does not coincide with our beliefs.
Hmm.
Yeah, and it was one of those things, 2 downs and you're out, and that was my 2nd down, and I was out.
Hmm.
And, my coach was just like, "What?
Right.
What?"
Yeah.
And I was just like, "Hey, we can't go back in time. Let's go back to Oklahoma."
Yeah. Man. So that did when did you make the decision to pursue it as a career? Was there, like, a point where you go, I could really actually make a living doing this?"
Um, Boy, making a living? Um,
Yeah.
uh,
I know that's a tough one, but
well, I had a, a I got some help going to school, with a
Mhm.
scholarship at a small university, and the
Mhm.
small university's in Tahlequah, Oklahoma, and Tahlequah, Oklahoma is also the Cherokee capital,
Mm.
and they have a big, compound with a huge amphitheater.
Mm.
So people from the theater department would work either on the tech crew, or
Mm.
they would, be cast members, or just villagers or whatever in this. It was more of a pageant than a play.
Mhm.
The Trail of Tears.
Mm.
So I got to hone my craft doing that, and of course the stage plays in college and the classes, and just learning uh, theater,
Mm.
uh, which is why I was there. And so after that, I I was looking for where do I go from here? Okay, well,
Mhm.
where is this taking me? Where is it going to take me from here?
Mhm.
And I happened to visit a friend in Nashville, and he had just gotten a really good job, moved into an apartment, and I went to visit him, and he went to work during the day. So I pulled out the phone book and I looked up dinner theaters, and I found a dinner theater, and I called them, and they said, "Well, do you have a resume or whatever, or a headshot with you?" I said, "No, but I can come in and talk to you." And
Mm.
I went in and spieled off all the plays I had done, the roles I had played, or whatever. And next thing I knew, I was uh, I was playing a 60-something-year-old man in my 20s with this real 62-year-old lady as the Jewish parents in Abby's Irish Rose.
Oh,
So,
okay.
yeah.
Wow. And so, did that, when did you make the move from that and go to Hollywood and start doing movies?
Oh, okay. So I did the theater, the non-union dinner theater circuit for a while. Tried radio for a millisecond, hated it, and then I had been to one thing my university did. They would go to Broadway every year,
Mm. Mm.
and it was dirt cheap. It was a bus ride, party bus all the way up, and a healing bus all the way back. But you got to see people on Broadway. I saw. It still just blows my mind that I was able to see Jason Robards on
Mm.
stage in A Touch of the Poet. I saw, a Fiddler on the Roof with with
Mhm.
with the only guy I'll ever think of, Tevye.
Mhm.
And
Mm.
the guy took 12 curtain calls.
Mm.
It was amazing. Of course, I was in the balcony, but I didn't care. It still blew my mind that I was watching Zero Lost
Right.
Out. Um, and little things would happen. You'd be in walking around during the day in Shupert Alley, and somebody would come up and say, "Hey, I just got a phone call or whatever. I've got some standing room tickets only for a chorus line. They're
Mm.
$5. Just give me $5 and I'll give you two." So things like that would happen. So I was constantly um, seeing real pros work.
Mm.
It was just feeding me. I was just eating it.
Mm.
So that happened two or three times, and I decided, okay, I'm going to have to make a decision. I'm either going to have to go back to Manhattan and
Mhm.
sleep in a broom closet and starve, or a park bench, or um, I'm going to have to go west
Mm.
to a city I had never been to Los Angeles. I had never been to Hollywood, and I thought, wow, man, what do I need to do here? I had a Pontiac Astra. I was ready to load it up. And I was watching Tom Snyder. You probably don't even remember who that is. It
Mm.
was a late night talk show. And
Mhm.
he was talking to an actor. I think it was Lee Majors, but I wouldn't swear to that. And he asked him, he said, "Why did you choose to go to Hollywood instead of Broadway?" And he goes, "Well, I'm from a small town. I just figured it was probably be better for me psychologically to rub bumpers instead of elbows." And I actually just went, "Okay, that's it. That's just
Where
my
I'm
plan."
going. Huh. Yeah.
So,
So now you move there. When you got to Hollywood, were there any obstacles that you faced that, like, maybe wouldn't be obvious to someone who's never done it?
um, I had steps that the whole thing, the whole move there, was a series of divine interventions that just keep on happening to me
Mm,
throughout my life. Um,
mhm,
I had a friend from college that had been out there and then come back to Oklahoma, and one of the guys he was very close friends with. He called him up and he said, "Hey, my buddy Mark Holton's coming out there. Can you give him some pointers? Tell him where to look for an apartment, what areas to stay out of, so he won't get
mhm.
shot." And the guy goes, "Well, where is he staying?" He said, "Well, I don't think he has a place yet." He said, "Well, tell him he can stay with us."
Hmm.
Okay, so I move in. Very nice people. Turns out his wife worked in casting at Paramount.
Oh, jeez.
I know,
Lucky.
I know. So,
Yeah.
Marianne would call me and say, I've got to read against these guys from Gold's Gym all day long. And would you consider just coming in and reading against them? All you have to do is just sit there with me and feed them their lines or whatever, and you'll get lunch on the lot, whatever. So I would do that, and Marianne was later on. Marianne was while I was not doing that during the day. I was doing improv,
Mm,
improvisational comedy, uh, and and all sorts of jobs, clerical jobs. Um, but Marianne was casting a new series called Webster with Emmanuel Lewis.
oh, yeah, I'm
He said,
familiar.
"You want to come in and read against the actors that are coming into audition for that?" And I said, "Yes."
Right,
And I had people come in there that were part of my childhood.
right.
And it's just, it was really weird, to say, "Oh my God, there's Ernest T. Bass, and he's
Mm.
climbing over the furniture in this guy's office." And yeah, it was nuts. Guys from F Trip. So uh, there were a lot of people, of course, that come through, and they don't have the spark they're looking for. Um, and I guess they thought, well, he's been a lot funnier than a lot of the people that have come in here. Let's give him a small role, help him get his SAG card. So they told me they were going to do that. I went, "Oh, wow, okay, yeah, that's amazing."
Yeah.
Uh, so they wrote me into the I guess episode 6 or something like that, small role,
Mhm.
and so I could call back home and say, "Hey, guess what? I'm going to be on national television on this
Yeah.
this new thing called Webster." Um, and was ready to go in. Did, of course, the film in front of a live audience. And one of the producers poked his head in my dressing room and said, "I don't want to make you nervous or anything, but more people will watch you tonight than watched Caruso in his entire career." Like, "Well,
No pressure.
no, not at all. No.
Man. So now you do that, you get your SAG card, and what I think is interesting about you is you kinda created a niche as kind of a character actor, um, and I think that character actors often become almost more recognizable than even the leading men, um, and so did you enjoy kinda that unique role, or did you prefer something different?
No, I just wanted to be an actor.
Mm,
Um, of course, I was not tall enough or thin enough to be a leading man. I was a character actor. I had accepted that, and that's just where I expected to be. So I was able to go in and get small roles to pay
mhm,
the bills, like a leak, no, not a leak. They're on. Naked Gun.
Oh,
Naked
yeah.
Gun was a half a day at scale, plus tip.
Mm,
Walked in to a stadium. They put me in the jumpsuit or whatever I was in, and threw me in, in with a bunch of for the extras, and I'm, pointing at the camera, going, "Hey, it's Enrico Palazzo." And
yeah.
then I went home and forgot all about it until people on the streets started pointing their fingers at me out of their cars, going, "Hey, it's Enrico Palazzo! Hey, that was funny." I'm going, "Really? What?" Because
Yeah,
I was in, I had a role that was so small, I wasn't even invited to the screening, and
right.
I didn't even know the movie was out. So,
Yeah.
I got, really lucky with things like that, and that's another one that's just beyond understanding.
Mhm.
It just happened at the right moment in that scene, in a wonderful scene, in a comedy that still stands up now. It's not dated at all,
Right.
and it just took on a life of its own.
Yeah. Well, now that was something interesting is that you have played so many memorable characters that, stan fans still like those quotes still, decades later, right? What do you think it is that makes a role stick with people?
Oh man, that's a really tough one, Josh. I don't know,
Mm,
man. It makes it stick with people. It's usually a line or a
mhm.
moment, and then a line. I don't know. It's different, and I could throw. We could look at every successful film ever made and find moments in there.
Yeah.
Well, that might be interesting just to start looking for those moments.
Mhm.
Um, I don't know.
It's
I don't.
interesting because I think like as a fan watching it, I mean, I took acting classes in college and stuff like that. Took a few of them. Ended up doing a little bit of acting here and there, and then as an attorney, a trial attorney, I mean, there's an element of performance involved in that, and then I did the pro wrestling thing, which element performance in that, and I think what I've observed is, man, it's got to be something that probably is written well for the perfect person for the role, and it all comes together. Like, I mean, I don't know if, Chubby or Francis or these roles, if somebody else did them, would have been as memorable as if you did them.
Um, I don't know that either, but if it's something that you go home and you repeat with a friend or a family member, and
Mhm.
yeah, I know you are, but what am I? Or
Yeah.
hey, it's Enrico Palazzo, or any of Paul's lines. Uh, if somebody was telling me that they were going to carpool with a lady named Frances that was driving them to school every day, and when they would address her or answer her, they would always call her Francis.
Yeah.
So it's just like the Pythons. Those lines from the Holy Grail. We're
Mhm.
still doing them.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
guys who say, um, just silly stuff like that.
Yeah.
Just but a scratch.
Yeah. When you, going back to Pee-wee's Big Adventure, when you mentioned you didn't really know Paul Rubens at all. I
Mhm.
mean, you'd seen some of his stuff. So when you meet him, what's your first impressions of him?
Um, well, I met him in the audition, and we did the "I know you are, but what am I" scene. He was not. He was dressed in street clothes without makeup, and I didn't recognize him until uh, in the room until they said, "Well, we'd like to have you read with Paul." And he stood up, and I went, "Okay, that's the guy I saw on Letterman."
Mm,
But
mhm.
no, it was very businesslike. Of course, he was one of the writers, um, and so there was, everything was kind of set in stone. Everything, every word that I said in the audition was what you saw in film. There wasn't a
Mm,
lot of futzing around with stuff. And so just talking with him and learning his sense of humor, which you pick up on very quickly, uh,
Mhm.
because anything that Paul says, there's a little bit of that character that was in the background even then, before it
Mm.
completely consumed him at times. Um, I got tickled uh, at the documentary they did, the 2-part documentary, when he
Mhm.
was giving the interviewer shit, and and the guy just couldn't win. He tried to come back at him again, and I thought, you know what? This every phone call I've ever had with Paul Rubens.
Yeah,
You know, he's just going to torture you with his sense of humor.
yeah,
Now, Paul was being very serious with him,
right.
uh, and I only saw him go off one time, uh, just on a tirade, and it was at me.
Mm.
Um, I said, "Man, I, I thought I quit smoking or whatever, and blah blah blah, an excuse or whatever." And Paul had quit several times, um, and I, looking back in hindsight, I'm wondering if that was about the time that he was diagnosed.
Mm.
Of course, he kept it secret from me right up to the end. Uh, but he said, "You're a baby. You're nothing but a baby. You're." He just lit into me, and I was like, "Whoa, hey,
Hmm.
come on, man!"
Yeah.
But it just had a bite, a savagery to
Mm.
it that I had never seen before. But I think he was maybe saying, "You're killing yourself. Ask me how I know."
Yeah.
No, I mean, I don't know, but that's the only explanation I have right now. I mean, I might change my mind later, but that just kind of fits.
Yeah, so your relationship with Paul Rubens, it obviously continued. Was he somebody that you would call at times just as friends and hang out with or talk to?
Mostly, of course, I lived in California City, which put me far away from him. He was very busy, and then I was in Palmdale, which put me far away from him, and then ultimately I was in the Tulsa area, which put me a half a continent away from him. So we didn't really get to see each other face to face in person that much. And after watching the 2-part documentary, after the first night, I said, I'm going to have to take a break and digest this, because so much of his life didn't never entered our relationship. Things we
Mm.
never talked about. Um, he was always very supportive. Uh, and when I got married, he was very happy for me when I had my children. He was I've got a big box full of Christmas cards that he would
Mm.
send every year. He personalized all of them. Uh, but yeah, there was a whole side to him that that I was aware of, but I never had any details because I never asked. And
Mhm.
there were things about my life, I'm sure, that he didn't ask about.
Yeah. Do you when he passed on and you're reflecting on that, do you kinda wish you would've had that with him or, like, been able to have some of those conversations?
Um, he sent me a video on my birthday, which was just a few days before he went. And I
Mm.
have a feeling that video was made um, a while before my birthday and then sent to me on my birthday, because this was an annual thing, and it was an all day thing of just
Mhm.
texts and videos one after the other until it led up to the end.
Mhm.
But it was literally, just days later after that, and, I got up in the morning and walked to the coffee maker, and I'm pouring a mug of coffee, and the phone rings, and I look down, I recognize who it is, and like an idiot, I, answered it, and it was TMZ.
Hmm.
Yeah, and, the guy's, doing the frantic, paparazzi shit on the other end of the line. I hung up on them and
Hmm.
went in and blocked their number.
Right.
Uh, and I still haven't talked to him, and I never will,
Yeah.
because, that's not the way you're supposed to find out.
Yeah.
Um, I didn't appreciate it,
Yeah. I'm sure.
but,
Yeah. And your careers are so connected, that movie really kinda catapulted that's a movie you mentioned earlier, you said it 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 resonates with it holds up it stands the test of time, it resonates with everybody. I've shown it to my kids, I've watched it with my parents. There's 3 generations of us, and my grandparents watched it, like, we all loved Pee-wee's Big Adventure. And we've all joked that France thing every time we see somebody who's France, we play that game too, and even that whole, "Listen to reason," and he goes, "I'm listening to reason." Like, all of those little quips that you guys had were so, meaningful, and so I gotta imagine that when he passed, that had to be rough for you.
yeah, it was. I mean, somebody over 40 years,
Yeah.
and you stay in constant, contact with them. Yeah, man. It's like having a family member that's, uh, a continent away, but, you stay in touch or whatever, and you know what's going on in their lives and their careers and whatever. And when they pass, it affects you. Um,
Mhm. Yeah.
he was, that movie was never not a part of my life after that, even though I tried to, at times, fight tooth, and claw to keep out of that, pigeonhole, as you would say, the typecasting.
Yeah.
Um, I just thought of something that that kind of fits right now with what we're talking about. I was in Nashville at George Jones Bar,
Mm.
and, my wife and I and my son had been up to the roof, and, we were watching the river or whatever, and I was having a bourbon and a cigar, and we came back down, and they wanted to go off and shop, in the little, I guess there's a boutique area, and I sat down in one of the, rocking chairs, and my son took a picture of it. And, weeks later, after, that day, my son sent me the picture, and I looked at it, and I thought, "Oh god, I don't care about this ugly old man," and then I looked at it closer, and right over my head, right next to me, is a picture of Paul Rubens in that ridiculous cowboy suit from the rodeo in Pee-wee's Big Adventure with George Jones. I thought, "God, man, you just follow me everywhere."
Yeah, yeah, that's funny. Well, and that's the thing is that, you mentioned earlier, you said that happened and then there was a little bit I think you said it was a little bit of a lull or there was a little bit of a time there. Was there kind of a season where things weren't really going the way that you'd hoped? And, like, how did you get through that?
Oh, yeah, I was very fortunate in that I was doing, commercials that,
Mhm,
that ran for a long period of time, and that was my bread and butter
mhm.
and the roof over our heads. But, yeah, there were times, where, I did things that I normally wouldn't have if I didn't need the money. I
Mm,
think every actor's, you have to do that. If you, you know, if you wait for
yeah.
perfect roles and you're an actor, you're just never going to work. You're
Right.
going to
Uh-huh.
get your ass down to Walmart and become a greeter.
Yeah.
So, but, Gacy came along,
Mhm,
and, I thought, well, okay. here's my chance to play a title role, and I'll never have another one. So I have
Mm,
to get this role, and I got it, and did the movie. Um, and that was just, pretty much a notch on my cult,
mhm, mhm,
as they
mhm,
used to say. That was just another thing that I wanted. I wanted to play a leading man, and I got my
mhm,
opportunity, and I got it done. And the chances are that I ever got to do that in the first place, being as fat and as who the hell is going to believe that he's John Wayne Gacy when
mm.
everyone knows him as the fat kid from Pee-wee's?
Right.
It's constantly, fighting against that. So, you know, a lot of the times, people that control what audiences see don't really know what they want or what you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. Now, when you did Gacy, that was such a departure, like you said, I mean, it sounds like that's part of the reason why you did it. It's such a departure from kind of the character actor that everybody wanted you to play. Did you feel fulfilled by doing that role? Was that something that you really felt passionate about?
Um, I did um, I did the best job I was capable of doing under the
Mm,
circumstances
mhm,
because it's very low budget, and I don't want to get into it because I've covered it so many times, but I had some big problems with the director,
mm,
and at one point I quit the film. I stepped outside, and I I only told one person, I'm getting out of here. I can't put up with this shit anymore. And I
mm,
looked back, the big sliding doors on the studio, sound stages, and I looked back in, and they were redressing a scene, and all these people were there, the crew or whatever, and uh, makeup and hair and wardrobe standing by. And I thought, if I walk out of here, there's no way they have the money to replace me and reshoot all my stuff. If I walk out of here, every one of those people are going to be without a job.
mm,
So,
yeah. Well,
but wait,
so you decided to stick around to kinda help everybody else out. That's pretty noble of you, considering.
well, I mean, if I had just flown off the handle and said, I'm going to get in my car and leave or whatever, and that wouldn't be good.
Yeah,
And then
right.
to have that afterthought gnawing on your soul the rest of your life. You
Yeah,
did that to all those people. What
yeah.
an asshole.
Yeah. Well, and also, that a lot of times I teach my kids this sometimes they maybe don't wanna do something or they don't wanna go somewhere or, they're not gonna go they don't wanna go to some family event that maybe is far away or something like that, get in the car and drive when it's gonna be a short trip or whatever. And I always tell them, I go, sometimes being a dad, it's just you just have to exercise veto power, and they're not big fans of that. I sometimes tell my kids, I'm like, 80% of what I do is just making you do things that you don't want to do that I know is better for you, and so, uh, and so, um, but I often tell them when they are upset about something like that, I go, I just have to think 10, 15, 20 years from now,
Mhm.
you're gonna regret not doing it or that more than doing it. So,
Yeah,
and they maybe, at 17, 15, whatever, they don't really see that yet. They don't have
right.
the experience for it. So, sounds like that's kinda what you did was, "Hey, I don't wanna look back 10 years and go, 'Man, I really shouldn't have done that.'"
Yeah, I had 2 little ones, that I went
Mhm,
home to every night, and,
mhm.
of course, the subject matter, I would tell people, they said, "Well, how do you deal with that, man?" And I said, "Well, I just feel like I need to scrub my brain out with a toilet brush every night and
Oh,
say a
I
prayer
bet.
before I show up at the house."
Yeah.
But yeah, man, the quote that always goes through my mind when people talk about, uh, being fathers, and we have Father's Day coming up very soon.
Mhm.
Hint, 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 hint. To my sons out there, uh, is the Mark Twain quote. When I
Mhm.
was 18, I thought my old man was the dumbest man in the world, and when I turned 21, I was surprised at how much the old man had learned in 3 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Shifting gears to another one of my favorite movies that you did. Well, actually, before I go into that, I wanna say one role that actually sticks with me is your portrayal of the older, uh your portrayal of the kid later on in life in A League of Their Own. And I think one of the I asked myself too, because you've done a lot of stuff, I've seen a lot of your things, and I was like, "Why does that stick out to me?" And I think one of the reasons was because when like, the 2 that I really enjoyed you did was Teen Wolf and Pee-wee's Big Adventure. But the sentimentality of the character that you played for those few minutes in A League of Their Own, I felt like it really did that whole character so much justice. You know what I mean? The and so talk to me about doing A League of Their Own and kinda what your feelings are of that character.
Well, that was all Penny Marshall,
Mm,
in how she handled me as an actor, and just being a wonderful director. Um, she had me come to, can't remember, Indiana, Iowa, where they had the little, World War II era,
mhm,
um, neighborhood that they shot some scenes in. And she wanted to go over the lines with me,
mm,
and we did it on somebody's porch.
mm,
And and she gave me just a tiny bit of direction. She said, "Okay, I think we're ready now. So I'll see you. I'll see you at the Baseball Hall of Fame." So I'm
mm.
going, wow. You talk about attention to detail.
Right.
I just and what a luxury, to
Mm,
know ahead of time before action what somebody really wants out of that character, which
mhm,
is a huge, you know, uh, luxury. Almost never happens. So when I got there, I had to the Baseball Hall of Fame. I knew that she was a crazy antique collector,
mm,
and also that she liked sake.
mm,
I thought, I can't take her an antique, so I'm going to get her a little bottle of sake. I've done a nice little porcelain, bottle with the little sake cup on top that was decorated really beautiful. And it already had its own little box, and I threw that in my suitcase and took it on the set.
mm,
And we got ready to shoot the scene, and I had it tucked away on a rung of a ladder just off the set, to try to find the right moment to give it to her. And and she said, "Okay, everybody, take a few. Mark, so and so and so and so. We're going to go up to the theater and watch the movie upstairs," which
mm,
that was like the history of baseball or whatever. And anyway, it just something that charged me up about baseball. It just gave me that extra kick. It let me know what it meant to her. Having
mhm,
not been on this journey with her as a director for the other part rest of the movie that she had shot. Um, and I took that little package along, and I just handed it to her. And we're watching the movie, and uh, next thing I know, she's taking a little sip out of the bottle, and that was it. We went down, got to work, and
nice.
I always liked that. I always felt like that's the way it's supposed to be. That's what I want for uh, my soul as an
Mm.
actor. And when her book came out, and she's talking about that scene in that chapter, she wrote there wasn't a dry eye on the set when, and so that was my confirmation. That,
Yeah.
uh, of course, I can't finish that line or because we can't go to commercial.
Yeah. Well, it's, it really, like, I thought the way you portrayed that in that show, because that little kid was such a punk, the whole time, and his mom was so sweet and just was having such a good time, and your portrayal in that few minutes really did just kinda solidify, like, the kid like, the adult Stillwell knew how much of a pain he was and how much it meant to his mom to be there. Like, it just submitted it all, and the fact that she had passed away and wasn't there, and you were there in her place, like, your character was there in her place. It just for something, it stuck out, and that's what's so interesting about you as a character actor is your characters stick out. Like, for example, Teen Wolf, right? I remember Michael J. Fox and I remember Chubby. I don't remember really any of the other guys, but your character sticks out. And what do you think it takes for a character actor to make these roles stick out?
Mm, I I have no answer.
Mm,
I can't. I couldn't get close. It's just a lot of it's timing, and by that I don't necessarily mean comedic timing. It's just you throw something out that's different than is on the written page, and it's accepted, and it and you threw it out there just at the right time. So I don't know. I have Michael J. Fox on my side for some reason. He
mhm,
thought that my role was not big enough on paper.
mm,
Um, and he would say, "Well, have Chubby do it." And I
mhm.
went, "Yeah, have Chubby do it."
Yeah. Right.
And the next thing I know, I'm playing a role. I take a bite off of a candy bar or something. It's the ha ha fat kid joke that's in
Mhm,
every comedy, but in that time period and probably now. Um, and then all of a sudden, I've been promoted from that to helping win the game and being picked up by the crowd. I don't know.
mhm. Yeah,
Like I said before, there have been many instances of just divine intervention
yeah,
that are inexplicable. You say
yeah.
inexplainable, or do you say inexplicable?
I say both, depending on what I'm feeling in the moment.
Uh, if I'm feeling very British for
Yeah,
some reason, and I don't know why, I'm in the middle of Oklahoma right now, but if I'm feeling very British, it's inexplicable.
right.
And if I'm grounded in reality, then it's unexplainable. You know.
Unexplainable, yeah. Well, so tell me, you mentioned divine intervention. Do you d does what role does faith in kind of, in the divine play in your life?
Oh, it's I when I moved from California, uh, December of 2015, I had literally quit the business.
Mm,
Was done with it. It was done with me. And it was again timing, divine intervention, or whatever. Um, my home had appreciated to a point that my wife and I had no idea. My sons were both grown and out of high school and college, and I I lived right on the aqueduct, and I could look out and look at the Tehachapi's, but, I wasn't driving in anymore, and the stuff I was driving in for was wrong.
Mm,
It was just a series of, things that, just made me, turn to Lisa, my wife, and say, "I don't wanna die on this hill. Why are
mm,
we staying here?" And, so we sold the place and moved back here, and I, started going to church again. Um, I had always been, the, poster child for the lazy, uh, "Oh, hey, I'm still taking baby steps, I don't do this and I don't do that, but I do believe this and I do believe that, and, I'm still taking baby steps."
mm,
"Oh, it's okay." Um, and then one day, it hit me, and I forget what triggered it. I think it was a radio program that, I heard somebody say, at one point I had to just tell myself, "You've been taking baby steps for decades. It's time to stand up and walk."
right.
And, so I followed that lead and have been growing, ever since. And, it's hard to catch up, people that are my age, they usually have a certain knowledge base,
Mm,
that I don't have, but I'm quickly, catching up. And the internet, if you go to church and you
mhm,
hear a specific, uh, spiritual leader that you want to listen to and learn from, you will be able to, hear a sermon once a week.
mhm,
Most, you know, most
mhm,
of the time. Uh, if there is a series that is already on tape, you can skip the choir, you can skip the intro and the outro and go right to the meat of it, which is what you're after, and listen to all of Ephesians,
mhm,
just in
mhm.
one after the other.
Yeah,
Um, and so you're able to to just devour it as fast as you can. Um,
that's it. That's hugely important. The thing that I find so interesting, especially from people, I've been so I'm LDS, a Mormon, whatever you wanna call it, and, I've always kind of been in the church to varying degrees, but I've always gone, um,
mhm,
and, what I've noticed, quite frankly, is that people who maybe had a base in it, left for a while, maybe didn't practice too much, or even decided to go a completely different route and then come back, they end up being the strongest members and have the strongest testimony. They
wow.
really do. Because because they've seen it. You've got the life experience. I mean, I got to imagine you, someone who was in Hollywood for so long, you saw a lot of stuff and you saw a lot of different lifestyles. You saw a lot of different, people who were in the party scene or did these other things. And so when you come back, it's not about having a knowledge of the scriptures per se. It's about having life experience and seeing how having the
Mhm,
spirit in your life,
yeah,
how that's different than not having, those divine interventions and recognizing that's my favorite part of getting kind of older. I'm only 45 years old, but I was just talking to my son just before we came on here to record. He's in Peru on a mission right now, and we were just catching up. We catch up once a week, and I was telling him, I go, man, for everything that's gone on in my life, good and bad, there's been some real highs and real lows, and I can see God's hand in all of it.
yeah,
I can see where even the things, this world is weird where like,
yeah,
you have to live it going forward, and then it doesn't make sense till you're looking backward,
right,
and it's like you look back and I go, man, I can look back at all these bad things that happened, and now that I'm out of it and I look back, I go, I wouldn't change it because I really like where I'm at, and I don't know if you've had a similar experience.
Um, the difference between somebody, a lot of people that sit in a pew weekly, that go through the motions and everything, is at some point they need to have a personal connection to where they are experiencing the Holy Spirit.
Mhm.
And for me, it's just, one word is just Father. I mean,
Yeah,
sometimes if I don't know what to say, don't know what to pray about, but just say his name all of a sudden, a few seconds will go by and, I'll say, I'm listening.
yeah,
And then all of a sudden the questions and the answers, it's like a dialogue, but it's
yeah,
almost a continual um, internal dialogue that I try to include him with everything I do. And one of the things that I noticed that a lot of people could do to make more connections during the day, because it's
mhm,
hard. You do the morning thing and then you go off and then there's real life or whatever. But if you can throughout the day just make a connection, uh, you don't have to get on your knees and make a pretty. Just hey Father, thank you for letting me see that. I can't believe what I
yeah,
just saw. Thank you.
yeah, yeah,
And people don't ask for the blessing of their food anymore. You know.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah, it's funny you bring all that up because I think some of my most spiritual experiences came when it wasn't even like a formal prayer, it was just talking to God, just kinda going like, "Hey, I am not liking where this is going." Or like, "I don't get why this is happening. Perhaps you could maybe reveal something, share something, like, show me something to kind of make this make sense," or things of that nature. It doesn't I think we get wrapped up sometimes. I know at least people I know, they get wrapped up in the formalities. They get wrapped up in a lot of what I would call, what in the scriptures in the New Testament, Jesus was always railing against the Pharisees and the Sadducees because of all their formalities and all their stuff. And he's
Mhm.
like, it's not about that. It's about being a good person. It's about
Yeah.
being about loving your neighbor. It's about loving God. It's about this underneath. Don't go pray for other people to hear about it. Pray in your closet where no one sees,
Right. Yeah.
and man, I can tell you that, like, those spiritual experiences were the most, influential in my life when it wasn't me getting on my knees right before bed or right as I get out of bed and praying and saying, "Oh, Father in heaven," and "In the name of Jesus Christ," just having a real connected conversation with God.
Mhm.
That's where I find him, you know? And so it's
Yeah.
kinda interesting how that plays out. Let me ask you a question, that's kinda connected to this. You've had a very accomplished career in acting, but what do you think is your greatest accomplishment that isn't connected to movies and theater and acting?
My family. I
Mm,
mean, I just had my first grandchild. She's getting ready to turn 1 year old in August, and
nice.
to have when I look at other people's families and just the tragedy that 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 happens, um, I just think, my wow, it's a literal, there but for the grace of God go I.
Yeah.
I am blessed beyond measure,
Mm,
and certainly doing better than I deserve.
yeah. Isn't it funny how that works? You look back and I think this is the reason we say that, like, we say that, "Well, I didn't really deserve all that," and I think that's because comparison is the thief of joy. You like I know that there were times in my life where I would go to church and I would know all my problems, but I didn't know everybody else's. And I look at them and they all look so perfect. You know what I mean? And you're like, oh man. they're doing so great. And then I became part of the leadership of the church, and then I found out that they're like every single one of them was having a problem. Just some were better at hiding it than others were. And so I think that, when I say the same thing. I'm like, I am so I did not there is no reason or rhyme for why God has blessed me as much as he has.
Mhm.
It doesn't I certainly nothing I did, but I think that's for all of us,
Yeah.
I mean, I think we all just get blessed for things that we certainly didn't deserve.
Well, Alistair Begg tells a story. He was preaching a sermon on the Ten Commandments and
Mhm.
had somebody walk up to him at the end of it. He goes, "Man, you know, I, I I'm only keeping 3 of those." And and then he thought about it. He goes, "No, I'm only keeping 2." And then he called him later that day and said, "It's down to 0." So we none of us are perfect, and anything that good, you know, what happens to us for eternity, um, is more than we deserve. I
Yeah,
mean, we don't deserve his love,
right.
because we're just. I mean, if you really want to look at it and just keep tally throughout the day, you know, uh, the minute time, many times that you think about, God, I'd like to kill this son of a bitch.
Yeah.
Just thoughts of murder, thoughts of or horrible things. You could take any of them. Um, you just it's hard. I
Mhm.
try to keep up with them as they occur.
Right.
Um, you go, oh, why did I think that? Give me God, God, give me. You know,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and
but
that's
it all comes. It's some of it's external, especially when
mhm,
drugs are involved. But
sure.
every little sin uh, starts inside you.
Yeah.
You
Mhm,
know.
mhm. Let me ask you a question, real quick, and I appreciate your time, that you've given me so far. Let me ask, if you could go back and have a conversation with, say, 25-year-old Mark,
Mhm.
what advice would you give him?
Oh man. Okay, that's the toughest one you've thrown at me so far. Uh, I think probably go to church.
Yeah, go to church, yeah.
Church.
That's a
Stop being a knucklehead. Be a knight.
yeah. Yeah, but, like I said, I mean, it's one of those things where, like, I've asked myself that same question. I think the only thing I would ever say is, "It's gonna be alright." You know what I
What?
mean? It's gonna be I think that I would go back and tell myself, "It's gonna be okay." You know
Ah,
what I mean? Just it's gonna work out. 'Cause the yeah, maybe if you told them to go to church, some things would've gone differently, but then you wouldn't have been in the place you're in right now. You know what I mean? And the place you are right now, the experience you had. I was just telling
that's
my
true. That's true. I
yeah.
was I was I was kept alive for a reason.
Yeah. Well, I was just like I said, I
This
was just talking
podcast.
yeah, yeah. I was just talking to my son, and I told him, I go, because we have these, when you're on a mission for the church or whatever, it
Mhm.
gets really deep. And I told him, I go, I got to tell you, man, like the stuff that I've gone through, because it's not all been good. I go, stuff that I've gone through, the result of other people and all that. Sometimes I go, man, I wish I wouldn't have done that. But now I have all this experience that when he's just starting, he's 19
Yeah.
years old. I'm like, you're just starting this journey that I've been through, and I'm like, and now when you go through it, I'm gonna be able to give you something that you're like, I'm gonna be able to give you advice that I didn't get,
Mhm.
and I'm gonna be able to give you some thoughts when you go through something that maybe you'll be able to avoid some things.
Yeah.
And so it's I can't wait. This is gonna sound weird, but I can't wait to one day be able to ask God why everything happened the way they had to figure out why it all it all went this way. I think it'll be really fascinating to see how perfect, even though
I
this
don't
is imperfect.
I don't think you'll even think about that. I think you'll be in, you'll be in heaven. There'll be too much joy. I don't think you'll be aware that of any of the troubles you've had before.
Yeah,
Just
that's a good point.
who you're in the presence of.
Yeah.
That's
Wow.
that's just, my guess for my little monkey brain.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I while we're here, it's important to say, why,
Yeah.
why, and it's also important to say, I cannot know the mind of God.
Sure.
I cannot know his timetable because
Sure.
I'm on this little tiny strand of time in
Mhm.
a miles, a vast universe
Yeah.
that starts before time and ends, that it's never ending until he says,
Yeah.
"Yeah,"
Yeah.
Um, so, it's I can't wrap my head around it. Um, I don't want to be one of those people that say, "Oh well, it was God's will." Well,
Mhm.
um, it's that's cool that you can accept that, but I think you need to, at the same time say, why,
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
ask him. I mean, a day might go by or whatever, but you might just get an answer if you just stay in contact.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. I agree. And I think that we always get the answer at some point. Maybe it's not the answer we were hoping for.
yeah.
But one that I think in the end, sometimes even just not getting the answer is the answer, And so, but anyhow, well, last question I ask everybody before we wrap up, and like I said, I've appreciated your time. One day, um, you're going to pass away, and when you do, someone's going to give you a eulogy. What is the one thing you hope that somebody says about you in your eulogy?
Hmm. He was kind to puppies. He was kind to kitties. No, I
Yeah,
don't. He
yeah,
he loved his family, and
yeah.
uh, he he stayed out of prison.
Hey, that's a win. That's a win.
Hey,
Well,
can
let's
I plug something shamelessly
yeah,
here?
absolutely. Plug everything you want.
Okay. July. I don't know when this is going to air, and you can cut this out if you want to, but July 10th, 11th, and 12th, I'm going to be at the Mad Monster Party convention in Phoenix, Arizona, at the Renaissance Phoenix Glendale Hotel.
Hmm,
And you can still get tickets to the convention, but the hotel is sold out for all 3 nights. So
alright. That's
beware.
awesome. And where can people find you if they wanna follow you on social media?
Oh, um, at official Mark Holton on
Mhm.
Instagram, and I think on Facebook it's actor Mark Holton.
Okay. Alright. Well, Mark, let me just tell you, I was really excited that you were willing to come on because like I said, I mean, I watched those movies at least 100 times each as a kid, and they made a mark on me. You made a mark on me. As I said in the podcast, anything that you were in, you were memorable, and that says something. You were very good at what you did. So, you know, A plus work and A plus life, I would say.
Uh,
So,
well, when I looked at your profile, I thought, wow, this could be a really great interview. And you know
yeah,
what? It
that's
was.
oh, good. Yes, that's what I hope for. I hope for. I hope I honestly like a lot of the times when I do these podcasts, I hope that I am able to do it. I get you gotta imagine you get asked the same questions over and over and over,
Yeah.
and, so I always try when I do these podcasts, I always wanna ask things that maybe like, figure out what you wanna talk about that's not,
Mm, yeah.
you know, that's not the things that really make you tick, and I can tell sometimes it takes a minute to see it, but I can tell, like, the things that really are resonate with you are faith and family, and that seems to be what's so interesting is it's something that, like, I'm seeing over and over and over, that it doesn't matter where you come from, whether you're a celebrity, a pro wrestler, you're a method actor, you're, just a regular guy who nobody really knows. It comes down to those things. Faith and family are so important in some way to almost everybody, and that's why the whole purpose of this podcast is to show that everyone from every walk of life is having a human experience, you know? And so it's been great to know you, and I hope that hopefully either go to a convention somewhere or you come to as we have Comic Cons and stuff around here. Hopefully you show up at one, we'll be able to connect. So
Oh, that would be great, man.
that'd be awesome.
Um, I would love it. We'll see where the spirit
Yeah,
sees me, so to speak. No pun intended. Uh,
yeah,
yeah, it could happen. That would be
yeah.
great. Yeah.
I would
So
love it.
I've enjoyed this conversation, and I can't imagine just continuing with this and getting to know you even better and having like beer and tobacco and good food involved in the whole thing. So
You yeah, absolutely. Well, you can have the beer and tobacco. I'm LDS. I don't do that, but I will eat with you for sure, and a lot of Diet Coke. Anyway, all right, man. It's been good to see you. Thank you.
all right. Thank you, Josh.